All right, welcome back, everybody. We are here at the Week 3 press conference with inside linebackers coach and defensive coordinator Peter Sirmon ahead of Saturday's game against San Diego State. We will go to Jeff Morado from Cal Bears on SI for the first question.
Hey, Peter, how you doing?
Good afternoon, Jeff. How are you?
Great. So five turnovers forced. How much of that was your improved pressure on the quarterback, and how much of it was your guys in the secondary just doing a real good job?
I think the guys in the secondary did a nice job of kind of playing the calls that we delivered into them, and kind of really they were opportunistic. There were some Ryan McCulloch obviously had a big influence on Jair's. Noel did a nice job of high pointing the ball, in the fourth quarter. Lou Maja, to finish the game. That's not an easy catch. So I think all those kind of played into that. But you see a lot of times in games that there's opportunities to catch the balls and the guys don't finish the plays. So I was happy that we finished the plays. And then Teddy's was a huge forced fumble, and then Craig picking it up, almost trying to advance it.
And were you pleased with the pass rush, the pressure you got?
I think that's an area we have to continue to discuss internally of how we get guys on some edges, and how we kind of transition rush in some of those play action pass scenarios. A couple throws, the one that Ryan won was a great example of a 7-man pro, kind of trying to push the ball a little bit downfield. It took a little bit of time for the crosser to get over there. And Ryan really covered the crosser because our overhang defender needed to gain some more depth. So that's a really good example of how the front can impact the overall performance, but in particular the pass game.
If I could ask you a separate follow-up, Marquez Cooper, their running back, is listed variously at 5'6" or 5'8", maybe. What makes him so good? He's had 1,800-yard rushing games in his career.
Talk about a fun player to watch. He really just looks like he kind of embodies the football mentality. He's got great balance. He is a vertical player. He tries, he runs horizontal, but first opportunity to get vertical, he runs behind his pads. He's reckless in terms of how hard he plays, takes care of the ball, but he's a physical runner, and you can see why he's been so productive. I think I'd read somewhere almost 4,000 yards in career rushes. So it's
more than 4,000 now. Yeah.
It's an exception. He's a fun player to watch, not a fun player to get ready for.
All right, thank you.
All right, we'll go to Jim McGill from Bear Insider.
Well, Peter, last week you played against a smaller line and there were no sacks. This week played against a significantly bigger line and had 3 sacks and a lot of pressures. What was different about the 2 games?
Well, I think the guys did a good job executing on some down and distances. We had some calls that kind of slid through some of the protections, and then ultimately got a finish. And I think that's where, Teddy had a nice rush to finish. Another one that kind of helped with Jair. Ryan McCulloch had a nice one. Every game kind of reveals itself a little bit differently. The style of play on offense, how much the pocket's moving, the mobility of the quarterback, kind of the things that I'm calling. I mean, everything kind of goes into, the overall feel of a game and kind of how we end up, getting after the quarterback.
Looking at the stat line for the defensive line, they did a fairly solid job. It looked like putting pressure on throughout a lot of the game, but very little stats for those guys. How do guys like to build up stats? How do you keep them motivated and focused when they're impacting the game, but maybe it doesn't show up so much for the casual fan looking at the numbers?
Yeah, and that's where as coaches, you got to peel back that curtain of what are stats and what are impact plays is probably very similar to if a basketball player, some of the things a basketball player doesn't necessarily hit the stat sheet, the effort plays, the going after the ball, those types of examples. They have to just continue to play and rush through it. And, they'll kind of like turnovers or takeaways. I think those things come in bunches, but it can't be for a lack of effort. So those guys will keep on pushing through. The stat lines are not as important as we want them to be, because, it's just, if you look at the game, it's more about QB pressures, QB hits, getting the quarterback off the spot and changing the launch points for the quarterback. If it's a rhythm kind of throwing game, those are a lot more consequential than actually sacking the quarterback. But yeah, those guys definitely want to get some sack numbers.
Thanks.
We'll go to Matt Moreno, Rivals.
Morning, Coach. Coach Wilcox talked about, Teddy's approach after the game and how that stands out to him. What do you see as Teddy's best quality that he brings to the team?
Well, I think first of all, he's got good physical tools. That's the number one prerequisite to be able to go out there and play against really talented players. But in the building, on the practice field, in the weight room, Teddy has really brought a ton of professionalism to the defensive side of the ball. He's a student in the meetings. He does a great job of taking notes. We were going over our meeting today. I can see him back there, jotting things down on his iPad. So those types of things that he's investing in himself during the week, and then you're seeing him play fast on Saturdays.
And then you mentioned Jair. Obviously, it was a step up in terms of snaps played and opportunities on the field. What did you think of his play, and how did you assess how he did?
Yeah, Jair still has a ton of work ahead of himself. It was great to see him out there. It was great that he was involved in the sack and a really nice job of finishing the play on the interception. But Jair, I would consider Jair an inexperienced player with a ton of potential, and where he needs to continue to develop is every day he walks in this building, he has to be excited about the opportunity. He has to be aggressive about learning the techniques. He has to continue to push himself to finish every play in practice. To become a better tackler. So we're extremely excited about Jair and what he's going to be, and we want to help along that journey.
All right, we'll go to Steve Cronin from the SF Chronicle.
Morning, Peter.
Morning, Steve.
Going back again right before the season when you had the golden era video, and you were saying, if I'm paraphrasing a little bit, the defense is more than just whether we play a 4-4-3 or a 4-2-5 or whatever. It's the personalities of the players on that team. After 2 games, it's a little early, but maybe not. Can you kind of get a sense of what the defense's personality is?
Yeah, I think they're starting to come together as a group, which in this environment, you never know how that's going to go. When you do have success, especially with some of the takeaways, that artificially grows those guys, and because they feel like they're part of something that is special. So those the way the kids have played, I think, is going to help bring them together. But it is really it's I say it's not the pressure, it's the people. It's how those guys play together. And we still have a tremendous amount of improvement. I think we had 60 some plays, and then yesterday I ripped a dozen of them to go through and had major corrections that we had to improve on. So I think as we continue to grow, those guys need to grow together. All of us need to grow together, understanding kind of what everybody's role is, and then continue to talk about the things that we've been preaching. That's effort and execution. And execution is a big bucket. That's a line, assignment, technique, and finish. That execution is not to be defined as one word, because it does mean so much. But if we can continue to focus on effort and execution, those 4 qualities that I just kind of detailed, I think the defense has an opportunity to help the team win games.
All right, we'll go back to Jeff.
Peter, the new coach of San Diego State, Lewis, has quite a reputation and a history. What does his offense look like? I mean, when we see them on Saturday, what are they going to be? And are they now what they're going to be eventually? Or are they sort of installing and building things, you think?
Well, based on watching a tremendous amount of Sean Lewis offense from where he's been, I think there's a lot more that he is probably growing that program into. I actually watched his press conference, and I thought he did a fantastic job of communicating what his vision is for his team. He was very insistent on the preparation and how the guys walk into the building, and he was very process oriented. So you can, just listening to and gain a little bit of glimpse of how he speaks. He has great things ahead in his mind for that program. And, it takes time. And, to develop in a program, develop players in a program, that doesn't happen overnight. He does have a very developed system of offense as you go back and study him through the years. And I think he'll continue to grow that. I expect an up-tempo operation, heavy in the run, heavy in the RPO tags, and then he's going to push the ball down the field. There's a tremendous amount of evidence of him pushing the ball down the field, taking his shots, and being aggressive as a play caller. So those are the things that I'm expecting that we've seen for the first 2 games, and then just going through and kind of studying what he's done offensively and kind of the mindset which he seems to display on game days.
And the freshman quarterback, Danny O'Neill, I think he got banged up in the last game a little bit, but what's he look like so far?
Unbelievably poised in the pocket, has a nice tight throwing motion. The ball can get out of his hands very, very quickly, which, will lend him to being a difficult RPO guy, because he can get, the fancy, it's not NFL draft season, but the different angles, the different arm angles and all the fun stuff that the quarterback gurus talk about. He can spin the ball that way. He's an effective runner, and he typically makes really good decisions on some of the keeps and some of the gives. But I think he's a poised player. He throws a really, really nice ball, does have an opportunity to push the ball downfield. And I think he had a couple throws that were almost 60 in the air. So I think he's a very arm-talented player that's continuing to develop in the system.
It's a lot for an 18-year-old, right?
Yeah, he can whip it now. He's going to throw a nice ball.
Rather play him now than 2 years?
Well, I won't speculate where anybody is in 2 years.
Gotcha. Thank you.
We'll go back to Jim McGill.
Peter, it didn't seem like some of the players were a big fan of Marcus's targeting penalty call and ejection. Is that something that's reviewable, where it could potentially get overturned, where he could play in the first half this week?
I think Justin's handling that through the conference. I'm not exactly sure what that process looks like. Really, I don't. And this is not anything. I just don't get involved in things that are above my pay grade. So I think Justin's probably looking into that along with administration, and he'll get back to us on that, I think, later in the week.
Yeah. Was there a little bit of surprise that the lack of contact on the first touchdown for Auburn, supposedly forcing the guy out of bounds, and then the PI on Knoll generated those calls? Because it seemed like there was very minimal contact on both.
Yeah, Jim, see, I'm just I don't know. It's those guys are doing the very best they can. I think they're officiating, as long as they officiate, both sides the same way. I'm pretty indifferent to how that goes. I got to go on to the next call. If I can't impact it, I don't worry about it.
Okay. Anything you can say about Ricky's health? Is he doing okay after the game?
He'll continue to, if Rick can go, he's been a fast healer for us, and he wants to get back on the field. So he'll give everything he can to get the opportunity to get back out there.
Great, thanks.
We'll go to Cody Henderson from the league winners.
Hey, Coach. Craig Woodson had 6 tackles and the fumble recovery there. We know how good he is in pass coverage, but can you talk about his impact on the defense in terms of run support?
Yeah, he's been, he's a great all around player, and you can pick out, coverage. You can pick out, a couple of years ago when he went and blocked a punt down at UCLA. He's a very, very good football player. I think probably the most favorite play of the day he had. He came down on a boundary support and cover 3 on a tailback on a check down, and just had a teach tape near foot, near shoulder on the tackle, and it just really showed his opportunity and kind of what his physical traits can be as a very, very physical tackle, I thought. But Craig can do it all. He can play to the field. He can play to the boundary. He's got a real good sense for some of the zone calls that we have. Does a good job of anticipating throws. And I think Craig has just continued to show that he's an all-around player, run and pass, and a good finisher as well.
Thanks, Coach.
We'll go back to Jeff Grotto.
Liam Johnson did not practice at all, I know, during August. Is he going to be with you guys at all this year, do you know? Or is it week to week, or how are you guys characterizing that?
Yeah, that's going to be week to week. He's working hard in the training room, and we hope to get him back sooner than later.
But you definitely expect to have him at some point this season.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.